when we made the movies, let's be honest and clear. When we made those movies, we did not believe, neither me, nor the producer, nor the people around me, the crew, that those movies will survive 12 months.
Hey guys, in this video my guest is Cannon film alumni director Sam Firstenberg, and we're going to find out why he retired, what he's been up to since, because he retired around 20 years ago. Make sure to check out his book, by the way, Stories from the Trenches. I mean, this thing's like a freaking phone book. There's all kinds of information, interviews, etc. Great pictures, right? So anyway, make sure to check that out from Amazon.com. I'll link it in the description below. Yeah, see this, Sam. So you've obviously directed a lot of movies, like a couple dozen. And you've directed for a long time. I'd say what, probably 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason why you stopped, I think, in the early 2000s?
So it's nothing specific. It's gradual. It happens. But one of the reasons is exactly the subject we spoke about, with the disappearance of the medium budget movies. In the Hollywood structure, actors, directors, etc., they're stigmatized. They have a, they say, okay, he is a comedy director. This actor is good only for drama. For some reason,
everybody's
that's how this business work. So somehow I became director. I'm not alone. A group of us. I said Joe Zito, Sheldon, Lettich, Sam Firstenberg, Toby Hooper. It's a group. Aaron Norris, so Albert Payon. So the group of a director, they were considered the low budget or the medium budget action director, never made it into, it's a group that never made the leap into huge budget action studio. And there was a lot of work there. And the payment, the salary was good, the pay was good, the work was satisfactory, because working under studio is it's not little bit, probably a lot of pressure working at the studio, which we didn't have in the independent company. We could do whatever. There was a creative freedom, and suddenly we just mentioned it disappeared. This market disappeared. So if you are a director who somehow moved into the studio system to work with big star names, then you became part of the stable of the studios. Or if you were willing to go down in budget and schedule. And that's what happened to me. I suddenly saw that I'm offered movies smaller and smaller and smaller in budget, but people expect to see American Ninja. They expect to see Revenge of the Ninja. And I realized that at some point we cannot do it. It's a bluff. We are bluffing ourselves. We are lying to ourselves. You need money to make action. You need days of shooting to make action. And I had a rule. There was always a rule. 45 minutes action. Out of 90 minutes, 45 minutes are going to be action, and only the other 45 minutes are going to be talking and dialogue and character. So, and nowadays, when you hear about low budget movie, you get 10 minutes of an action, one sequence, 1.5 sequence, one fist fight, one combat and one chase. And I realized that we are not bringing to our audience what we are promising. And so if you take those two elements together, suddenly there were no more offers in the medium budget. There was just no more.
Yeah.
They disappeared. The offers were going down, and I didn't make the leap to the big studio. So at some point it just fizzled out. It just
I mean,
so
with the working
maybe
conditions,
I can make a dialogue movie, 2 people in the room sitting, but I'm a member of the Directors Guild of America, DGA, which has a minimum payment, minimum salary. And when you go very low on the budget, the producer cannot even pay the salary of the director, the minimum payment of the director anymore.
Yeah, I could see why you would lose interest in filmmaking at that point.
It's hard work. I don't like energy, a lot of energy, but that's it. It kind of disappeared. And slowly I suddenly focused more on the nostalgic side, on the preservation of the legacy than making it, but rather preserve the legacy.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, you wrote a book. Can you tell us a little bit about that book you wrote?
Yeah.
I think that's bigger than Stephen Lambert's book, or at least the same.
Oh, yeah, look at
It's up there. I mean, his
No,
book.
and many pictures. Steve doesn't have a lot of pictures in his book.
Yeah, see, I got Steve's. I got to get
Yeah,
your
yeah,
book,
right,
but
right.
you guys
But
both
no
wrote a
picture.
phone book.
This
Basically.
one has this one have almost 1,000 pictures. A
Wow.
lot of pictures. But anyway, I did not write this book. That's the only difference.
Oh, you didn't write that book?
No, the writer is Marco Siedelman, a journalist from Germany.
Okay.
He contacted me at some point, and originally he wanted to make a book about Cannon, to write a book about Cannon. And he called me in order to help him, asking if I will help him, and I participate, help him, contacts, stories. I was happy to. In the back of my mind, I always say it's time to put together a book, but I'm not a writer. So Marco Siedelman, and at some point he came back to me and said, the subject is huge, it's too big. Actually, somebody is writing right now a book about Cannon, Austin, but it had to be 3 books. He finished the first book. He's busy now with book number 2, and then he will have to do book number 3. Because covering this subject of Cannon is enormous, so big. They made like 400 movies. And so Siedelman came back to me and he said, okay, listen, I'm talking with people that you gave me references. I gave him a lot of references with people and contacts. And he said, and my conclusion is that instead of writing a book about Cannon, which the subject is too big, let me concentrate only in the movies that you directed. Not only Cannon, but all the movies that I directed. And I said, okay, fine. Anyway, that's good. That's nice. It's complimentary. I like it. And then let's make a movie about but I told him, but Marco, please, let's making just a book about one person that's not enough. We need what is the conclusion? What is the big picture? Let's talk about the making of independent movies, genre movies of the 80s. And his style, he's not writing, he's interviewing. He's a reporter. So the whole book is interviews of many people that either I gave him references or his own people that he found. And they are all connected to this field of making low budget independent genre movies in the 80s and the 90s. And of course, the leading line is the movies that I directed. It goes from one movie to another. But the general picture, by interviewing so many people, producers, cinematographers, actor. So there is an interview with Michael Dudikoff, interview with Steve James, an interview with Gideon Amir, the producer, with Ellen Amiel, the producer, with Steve Lambert is interviewed in this book. And you get a picture. What was it like to work in the industry at that time in this field? Oh, nothing to do with major studios, nothing. And a lot about Cannon. What was it to work in Cannon? Because today Cannon is legendary. Today Cannon, people talk about Cannon as if it was the miracle at the time. There is a quiet interest in the Cannon company. So there is a lot about Cannon in this book. Of course, I helped him a lot, Marco. He needed help, but he wrote the book. I did not write it. And I provided him a lot of photos, a lot of pictures in the book are from my personal collection, because I always took pictures on the set.
That's cool. Yeah, no, that book would be perfect for my audience.
He's in Amazon. He's charging 35. I have no connection to the production of this book. He's charging, I think, $35 in Amazon.
But you make money off the book too, of course, right?
No.
You don't make any money if somebody buys the book?
I am in the nostalgic business. I don't need money anymore. I was lucky. I was very well compensated for directing those action movies at the time. Really, the Directors Guild, with the minimum pay, with the pension, with the health insurance, everything that comes with union,
Okay.
So
I was hoping to help support, an old school Cannon dude by buying the book, but
I live well. And I'm happy I'm really happy, and I'm enjoying to do this business. I go to festivals. I'm invited to festivals, film festivals, screenings, and podcasts. Like you interviewed last week. The written interview was just published with me in one of the horror websites, and And I'll tell you, there is so much joy. I meet the people, they come with questions. I get tons of email with requests and questions and how was it done, and
Of course.
or just feeling and compliments. People who saw the movies, they were young, a little bit older than you nowadays, but they saw the movies when they were young, and there is so much pleasure. And just before the pandemic, there is here in Los Angeles downtown, there is something which is called the Secret Film Society. They have their own theater, little screening room, and they screen 35 millimeter.
Oh wow!
They don't screen from video. This is the rule of the society, of the organization.
Okay.
So they have projector, the whole thing, and somehow they contact me, or I contacted them. They were screening Ninja 3: The Domination just before the pandemic. It was January 2 years ago. I was invited, Q&A. That's usually introduction, after the screening, Q&A. I come over there, the theater was full, the screening room was full. I don't want to call it theater. Screening room was full. People came dressed as ninjas with the wardrobe, dressed as ninjas. And they know the lines. It's like the movie The Room, the famous movie The Room, when people are talking to the screen, they know all the line by heart. They sit there with, because Ninja 3 became kind of a cult movie.
Sure.
So this audience, they know the lines, so they talk with the screen, with actors at the screen in unison. They know the coming lines. It's so funny. It's a hilarious. It was a hilarious experience.
That's
and then Q&A. They asked me the question. Signing, the people came with a book. People came with posters for me to sign the poster. I enjoyed. I just enjoyed. I don't.
It's really cool how all
The
this
money part
lives on, and you're such a nice guy, and you're happy to kind of share that experience with people who've watched those movies in the 80s and rediscovering now, or even a new audience, I would assume.
I will tell you, we are success. I see that we are successful. When we made the movies, let's be honest and clear. When we made those movies, we did not believe, neither me, nor the producer, nor the people around me, the crew, that those movies will survive 12 months maximum. But we really believe that in 8 months they will disappear. Everybody knows, everybody knows that most of the movies which are produced in the world, they disappear. Nobody remembers, most of them, 80%. After 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, nobody remembered the title, the name, the movie disappeared. Then there is a small group that survive. They survive the test of time. Sometimes big budget, sometimes very small budget. Rocky, I see a lot of Rocky behind me.
Oh, yeah.
Rocky was a small budget movie, $1 million budget. But of course, survived the test of time, no question about it. So then we made the movies. It was the 85, American Ninja came 85, American Ninja 2, 86, 1986. And then there was a quiet, those movies really disappeared. And then 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I started to see interest is building and building and building more and more and more. Suddenly people are asking me to interview. For 20 years, nobody was talking about those movies. Suddenly I get so many requests for interviews. I'm invited to festival, and I look around me. It's not only me, of course, as we mentioned, the movies of Sheldon, okay, Bloodsport, Lionheart, whatever, all those movies, they're all coming up. And there is so much interest, and websites and Facebook pages, fan clubs of American Ninja, especially American Ninja. I must admit, American Ninja.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I cannot, it's not compared to any other movie that I direct. But so Breaking to Electric Boogaloo. Electric Boogaloo became a phenomenon, the culture phenomenon of the 80s. And I am so surprised, and I'm so, and let's say I'm pleased, and I'm honored to be part of this group of people who made those movies in the 80s, that suddenly we realized they did not die. They are in the conscience of the audience. They are existing. And that's a phenomenon. In my opinion, it's phenomenal. I in my wildest dream back then in 1985, 1986, I would not predict that those movies will survive 35 years, 35 years, 30. They will resurrect and come back to life. Movies with Shokasugi, Michael Dudikoff.
It's interesting. It's the nostalgia. There's like a there's like a hunger and desire for it. And I mean, obviously, this is like why I even made my channel. But the hunger and desire is because they don't make them like that anymore. So we just have to go back to the past and remember how great things were, right? By rediscovering these.
It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.